1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All mine.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. I am not going to waste any time because we got so much to talk about, and I am so excited for this episode. Let's get introductions out of the way so we can get going. My name is Aaron Harris, and joining me is my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the David Motters. What's up, David?
Hey, man, we are back, and thank you for covering last week. I loved your news from the Star Wars saga, right? Saga World News. And so that was awesome. Listen to that, and you got everybody caught up and got me caught up on some news that I was behind on. But I'm ready to react. I'm excited to cover a new series with you, and I have a Psychology Factoid for every episode of the Acolyte. So I already put those in show notes. You know that. And so we're prepped and ready to rock. How are you doing?
I am doing great, and I am stoked for this episode because I got to tell you, I loved the premiere of the Acolyte. And that is what we're talking about today, is the 2-episode premiere of The Acolyte. Both of these episodes, of course, released June 4th, 2024. The first one, the Lost Found, directed and written by Leslie Headland. This episode, of course, is when we meet young assassin May, played by Amanda Stenberg, murders Jedi Master Indara, who was played by Carrie-Anne Moss. On a remote planet, the Jedi Order is notified. They identify the killer as a former Jedi Padawan who left the Order prior to completing her training. Episode 2, Revenge and Justice, directed by Leslie Headland and written by Jason Micallef and Charmaine de Groot. This episode, of course, the assassin, Amanda Stenberg, strikes again on a far-flung world. Her next mark is Master Tobin, played by Dean Charles Chapman, a reclusive Jedi who took a vow of silent meditation and took refuge on the planet Olega. But this time, the investigating Jedi team is there to attempt a capture. And if I missed it, this episode was called Revenge Justice. So we got to get into this initial reactions. And I am so stoked. I normally let you go first, David, but I'm cutting in front of you, brother.
You go first.
I got to say, it's rare that it's rare that I've been super excited. I mean, I was super excited about Ahsoka just because it was dealing with Rebels, but when I don't know why because I went into watching Acolyte with hampered expectations, because I've enjoyed the High Republic. We're getting close to the Phantom Menace in the timeline. There's 100-year difference there. So new characters. I always go in a little reserved. And man, it was a huge payoff for me. I absolutely enjoyed everything I saw except for one thing, and which we'll talk about later. And it wasn't really that I didn't like it. I didn't like how it ended. But that's, like I said, another story. To me, this was 100%. This felt like Star Wars to me. And that's what I ask for when I watch new Star Wars shows, is make me feel like I'm watching the movies. Tell me good stories. Connect me to the story. suck me in, and they did. I felt like I was watching the Jedi. I mean, seeing the Jedi Temple and all the Jedi, I felt like I was watching the prequels or the Clone Wars, seeing the planets out there. It was great. All the new aliens, old aliens, the links to some of the species we saw in Clone Wars and so forth. I loved it. But then you get what in the world? I got ants coming from everywhere now. Okay. Carabas are crawling on my computer.
That's a Carabas.
Oh my gosh. Anywho, talk about your alien invasion. Anywho, what I really, really enjoyed was the cinematography and the way they edited this together. Because if you go back and you watch the original trilogy, when they cut scenes, there were, if you remember, when they cut scenes, you had just like random wipes. It wasn't just a change scene cut to another scene. There was a wipe of the screen. You'd come from the bottom corner and go to the top, or it would come across the screen. There were obvious wipes. And that's what we were getting in this. The first time the scene changed, it kind of wiped from the bottom left to the top right. I went, oh, hello there. Because it felt old school to me. And it made a real, I think that right there is what hooked me at that point to this person knows what they're doing with Star Wars. Because look at, they're using Lucas cinematography. And it hooked me. But then overall, all the action, the kung fu style fighting, it was very Matrixy. And it was perfect. I just, because you're talking about the Jedi who were keepers of the peace, and their first response shouldn't. And I like how May even said it. You go for your lightsaber, you're coming to kill me. Mm-hmm. She told that to Indara. And of course, at that point, you realize, these are keepers of the peace. This is in the time when there is peace, and they are peacekeepers. They're not the warriors we saw in the prequels and Clone Wars. These are the peacekeeping Jedi. So the last thing they're ever going to do is pull a weapon. And it fit perfectly. And I'm like, oh man, this is just, this was incredible for me. I like I said, I went in with hampered or reserved expectations because I was excited about it, but I also know when I get excited, I can get disappointed. So that kind of made me nervous, but man, I was over the moon for this show already. And we're only 2 episodes in. So I can seriously can honestly tell you 9 Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday night cannot come fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well,
Dick, how about you, brother?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed what you had to say there, and like I'll tell our listeners, just like Aaron said, there's a number of times he's come on and he's really kind of been, not super impressed with something, and Aaron will say that. And so for him to be this excited about it is wonderful to hear. And I think you came in the right way, Aaron, and I did as well. I did not have out of this world expectations. I think mine were higher for Ahsoka because of Filoni there, and of course Ahsoka the character and Thrawn and all that. But overall, I actually really enjoyed these, and the more that I've thought about both of these episodes, the more I see there's so many levels to this. In fact, you and I were talking about it just before we hit record, and we said, wait, we got to hit record. We're talking about so much stuff, and we'll get into some of those layers here in a little bit in our talking points, but I really enjoyed that. There's so much more of a mystery going on here than what's initially been presented in the trailers, which is good. And I do I do like seeing the lightsabers. I like seeing the combat action. I do, and I'll tell you this: I really liked Lee Jung-jae as Master Sol. He just
yes.
really, right? I mean, he just
Yes.
strikes you as a Jedi Master. You're like, yes, the way he talks, the way he's teaching younglings, the way he wants to help, Osha and May. I just really, really dig him and his character. And I do think about Leslie Headland, watching some of the behind the scenes stuff that they've put out so far. And she says, how do you go from the actor, Lee Jung-jae, he can be incredibly serious, and the next thing he's heartwarming, and like the smile that he has towards Osha after he saves her from falling off that cliff. I'm loving that character, as well as a lot of these other ones too. So I'm looking forward to this. We got 6 more episodes, so it's going to be, I think, pretty intense each episode, a lot in it. And then I'm curious to see where this leads off, since this is 100 years before, like you said, the Phantom Menace. And how far do they go? Do they go to a season 2? Do they go up closer? They got a lot of room there. I'm ready. I'm curious to see the rest of this, and that's, pretty good to see. I know there's a lot of mixed reviews out there, but there's a lot of positive too. So I'm in that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else Leslie Headland has in store for us.
Oh yeah, me too. It's Tuesday, like I said, Tuesday nights don't come fast enough anymore for me. And I normally am not a big fan of Tuesdays because it's early in the week, but I can't wait for Tuesday now. But let's go ahead and jump into some normally let's put it like this. Normally we have talking points we go through, y'all, but we there's so much we want to talk about. We are probably we're shooting from the hip on this, guys. And you brought it up in your opening remarks, so I just want to jump right into it. I want to talk about Sol, because he is such a, to me, this character is such a breath of fresh air. I love Master Sol. Mm-hmm. And seeing his relationship with Osha, mm-hmm. it is so heartwarming. It honestly, to me, gives me a glimpse of the type of relationship Qui-Gon may have had with Anakin. If he had lived, because you see, even though she's gone and she's been left the order, he cares for her. He's worried about her. He's got a soft spot for her. He rescued her from her planet.
Yes. Yeah.
And took care of her till she left the order. And so Sol to me he's a representation of Qui-Gon. I see a lot of Qui-Gon if he would have lived in Grandmaster Sol.
Yeah, good point, man. I didn't think about that, but yes, because you think about it, and Yord is there, right? Mm-hmm. Jedi Knight Yord, and I like that character too, and he's kind of the straight guy, and Master Sol,
yep,
is really kind of saying, yes, those are important, but we don't have to follow everything to the letter of the law, like Qui-Gon, right? And mm-hmm. That's a really good description. I think, to just maybe piggyback on this, there was a scene where I think they're approaching Karlat, right? That's where the ship went down,
in the second episode, yeah.
Exactly. And they're Olega, I think, is where the Jedi Temple, but Karlat is a place where it lands. And remember, at the end of the first episode, they're trying to follow Osha in the snow. But before they get there, there's a scene he's talking to Jecki. I guess she's what, Thelan and human, and then talking a little bit with Yord, and then Leslie Headland keeps the camera on him, and he just kind of does this. His eyes narrow a little bit, and he just takes a deep breath and breathes and centers himself. And I don't know what it is. I just really liked that. Like he's prepping and he's confident and he's gonna be ready to deal with this situation when they land and perhaps confront May or Osha at that time. And I don't know. I just really liked that. I feel like like we said, everything you've said and what I've said before is just really setting up this really neat Jedi Master. And gosh, and watching him fight too in that second episode with with May, I was like, oh man, it just was really cool. And it didn't take me out of it like some of the wire work that they do in some of those movies. Initially I thought, oh, it might be a lot of that, but it really wasn't. Right, buddy?
No, it really wasn't.
No, it really wasn't. And it's kind of grabbed her leg and flipped her around. And I'm like, okay, good. It wasn't too much. It was perfect. But yes, he's an early candidate for my favorite character in this series.
Oh yeah, very easily so. And you know, and to correct myself, Karlak was actually episode 1, not episode 2.
Right.
I misspoke there. But quite, and I'm glad you brought up how he centered himself, because you could tell this is a Jedi Master who has full control of who he is and how he feels. He feels himself getting anxious and his emotions kicking in to the point that he stops, retakes control before he proceeds. And to me, that is honestly, that's something we have not seen from the Jedi through them in the movies, or I don't even think we saw it from a Jedi in the Clone Wars.
Oh, what's the
just them when they I think Yoda may have done it in Empire Strikes Back when he's getting frustrated with Luke, but other than that, to have a Jedi just feel himself getting carried away, emotionally connected, to stop and recenter himself with the Force before proceeding. To me, that was it took it to a whole new level for Sol.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So fantastic character. And I know this has been quite a trip, but I would be dismiss if we didn't move on from Sol to the Jedi Master who kicked everything off for us, which was Indara. And of course, Indara played by the incredible Carrie-Anne Moss. If you recognize that name, you've watched The Matrix then, because that's where I knew her from. But
yeah,
and this is where my one dispute with the series comes into play. You have a star like Carrie-Anne Moss, huge star, huge reputation, huge star, big draw for the show. And in the first 10 minutes of the series, not of the episode, the first 10 minutes of the series, she's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing that bugged me. Now, everything with her up until the point she dies, cinematic gold.
Yeah.
But I'm flabbergasted that in the first 2 episodes, 2 of the big names that they brought in that they've pushed as stars of the show are dead.
I think the only saving grace is the clips that we've been shown by Lucasfilm over the last couple of weeks. You do see clips of Carrie-Anne Moss younger, right? You see Master Sol younger.
Younger.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
we're going to get those flashbacks.
right, we're gonna get the flashbacks of them, and even I remember a flashback. You remember the one? It shows Master Torben, his eyes going black.
Yep.
And so we'll see that young actor who plays that Jedi Master again as well. But yes, we'll see more Carrie-Anne Moss, more of these characters. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But yeah, so I mean, seeing her die that quickly, that, like I said, that's my only grievance with the series so far.
Yeah,
and hopefully it'll be the only one. But that was my grievance with the premiere. But well, this was a character that, again, like Sol, was very centered, very relaxed, very calm, and she spoke with in her conversation with May. The whole conversation, she spoke with almost like an elevated understanding of what was going on around her. Nothing's I don't want to say an arrogance, but there was some arrogance in the voice. Almost like you talk, if you ever talk to somebody who they know everything that's going on around them, and so they kind of are looking down their nose because they know you're up to something. That's the kind of feel I got from Indara.
Well, I think that's what led. I'm so glad you said this, because I think that's what led to her getting one of the knives right in the heart. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she saw that. I mean, and again, that was a perfect sign of her dying. Was I hated to see, but I mean, you go to the pride that she had. Pride goeth before a fall. She had pride that she was going to save that bartender she threw the knife at. And in her arrogance of in her pride of saving that person and not paying attention to the rest of the world around her, the knife got in her heart.
Yeah. It really did. It really did. Yeah. I think, I guess I'm curious to see, like, I guess, well, I'm hemming and hawing, because here's where my one, and you kind of helped, talk me off the cliff here. My thing was, and in fact, this discussion's helping me. I'm like, how does she lose to May? Who doesn't have a lightsaber? She has those knives, and I was talking to a friend. He was texting, and he was kind of frustrated with this, and he said, "Listen, the Carrie-Anne Moss in the Matrix would have bent back and over and ducked and wouldn't have been hit by the knife." Like, well, that is true, but I think, like you said, the pride. I think where it hit. I was talking to you about the scene gets impaled. And by a lightsaber and lives, but it's not up at the heart area, down in the gut. But it, and I wondered if there was poison on it as well, and when it's stuck into Master Indara. And so I think, again, talking to you last night, talking to you before we jumped on, and even this, with a bit of that pride in there, and it got her. And so I feel better about how it all went down. But I wonder if Leslie Headland was thinking, I'm going to go big or go home,
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, I think she swung for the fences.
And she hit a home run. And I'm going to say one more thing about Indara, and we can move on from there. But, for me, May did not beat Indara. Indara defeated Indara.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
that is, to me, that's where it ended. Indara beat Indara, not May. May have plunged the dagger.
Yeah.
Have thrown the dagger that plunged into her heart, but it was Indara who defeated Indara. And that is quite a story.
Yeah. Well, a sports metaphor is the team that's clearly better and they still lose because of they're kind of cocky and prideful and they, we don't have to try hard, and then boom, just lost. So yeah, well said, buddy.
Oh yeah, the Atlanta Falcons versus the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
What is that, 27 point comeback, something like that?
They have
in the fourth. Yeah, no. So yeah, it happens, but yeah, it was tragic. But and it's like I said, I don't like her dying, but if she had to die, a heck of a way to go. It definitely made it worth. It definitely got the story going, and definitely a sprint for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we got still a ton to talk about. We're going to take our first break. Hang with us. We will be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are talking the series premiere of The Acolyte, and so much awesomeness to discuss. I don't even. we could literally sit here for hours and barely scratch the surface, but we know y'all don't want to hear that. So we're going to try to just talk about the highlights, because we could, like I said, we could go on forever. One of the things I think we do need to talk about in this is the fact that the way this ties in, there was a lot of discussion before the series came out about how it ties in with the High Republic, especially when we found out we have Vernestra Rwoh, who was a character from the High Republic novels, in this series, and we got a glimpse of her in these episodes. Who phenomenal. We'll get to that later. But one thing, this is one thing we were talking about before we started recording, and honestly, I think it's one of the last things we said before I said we just need to hit record. Is the fact that the way Leslie Headland has handled this show is the fact that you can come into this without reading a single page of the High Republic, and enjoy the show. But at the same point, if you have read the High Republic, you're getting some rewards and some bonuses that normal fans who have not read it aren't going to get.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some people just don't like to read. No problem with that. I respect that. But, David, I know, has read more of the High Republic than I have. I've read a lot of it, but you've read almost all of it, haven't you? If not all of it?
I was thinking I think I've read everything except, like, I'm looking at all the comics here from phase 1, phase 2, and now phase 3. I have all the Star Wars Insider short stories. I think the only thing they did, Aaron, this is a tricky one. George Mann wrote during phase 2 in Star Wars Insider a series called Tales of Enlightenment, the bar on Jedi Enlightenment.
Okay.
And so I read all those, and then when you look in Star Wars Insider magazine, they collected those, just like they did the ones from phase 1 that were in Star Wars Insider, but they collected it and they said, look, you can buy this and there's one extra story put in there. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. this is something to be said that look, everyone can choose what they want to do. I mean, like, I don't know. I made a decision. I was going to dive headlong. Starting with The Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. I've done all the adult novels, all the middle grade, all the young adult, and then all the comics. And of course, I would even say this, the audiobooks, right? That Battle for Jeddah, the one with Lorna D, Tempest Runner. I'm looking at the manga, the 2 manga that are out so far. So I've read everything. I think the only thing is that one extra little story that they put in that collection for Tales of Enlightenment. So, I've even, like you mentioned it last week when you were doing the news update. that you pre-ordered the newest, and it's an adult novel by Tessa Gradden, Temptation of the Force. You pre-ordered it. I've got it pre-ordered as well. It comes out next week. So, yeah, I mean, I've really, for me going into this, I'm one of the ones who went in super deep, and have read everything. And I've enjoyed it. I've had fun with it. Is it perfect? No. But the like I said to you before, and I think our listeners get it. The beautiful thing about this series is that you don't have to read any of that. Like you can just learn about Vernestra Rwoh, in the series here, played by Rebecca Thompson, and go from there. But if you want, you can enjoy all of it, and it's a rich, fun, whole publishing initiative that I've enjoyed. But like we've mentioned with Ahsoka, there is a cost of entry there in the knowledge of Sabine and Ahsoka and Ezra and Thrawn and stuff like that. But this one you don't, and that is the beauty. And Leslie Headland said it. She goes, no, you don't have to have read all of that. And that really, hopefully, two things, brings in Star Wars fans, but I hope too, Aaron, it might bring people into maybe diving in and enjoying some of the High Republic publishing initiative. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And if it's something, I mean, definitely it's something that if you like reading and you like Star Wars, it's definitely a route you need to take. It's what's nice about the High Republic, and I think what's going to make this series so awesome as well is it's not bound by the time constraints of the Skywalker saga.
Right.
We're taking place 100 years before the Phantom Menace. So there is no time constraint. The Mandalorian has to fall into the guidelines of the Skywalker saga. There's already a story that's been laid out. It can have its own stories, but it still has to fit in that pattern. There is no pattern. This is all unexplored territory. This is a new frontier. They are going where no one has gone before.
Crossing the streams. Hey, I'll add this. Not only is this series not constrained by the prequels, the original trilogy, and the sequels, right? It's also not hindered by that whole publishing initiative, because all of that so far is before this. For our listeners, Vernestra Rwoh is much younger, one of the youngest to become a Jedi Knight in the High Republic series when that occurs. I think at 14 or 15, and now she's much older as a Mary Allen. I guess we learned they lived for a very long time, but it's not constrained by everything you and I've read either.
Yeah.
That's another, honestly, and I think that's why it was kind of nice just to sit down and watch it, right, buddy? We're not looking, wait, does that fit in? Does it not? It's not bound by Skywalker or all of the High Republic we've seen so far, and that's pretty fun. That's nice. It's relaxing. It's enjoyable.
Oh yeah, I know that makes it so much more. It gives the writers and storytellers so much more freedom when they don't have those barriers that they can't cross. And granted, if you hear the stories, they were given some guidelines, like Yoda's alive in this time frame, and although they swear up and down Yoda's not going to show his face in this, because they were told not to use Yoda. Okay. Yeah. If he doesn't show up, I that's fine. If he does show up, that's fine. I wouldn't care either way. It'll be a little exciting if he does, but I'm not going to worry about it, because it doesn't. All it would do is connect it to what comes.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but we definitely have a freedom. Leslie Headland and her team have a freedom that is I will go ahead and say is unprecedented in Star Wars storytelling because they don't have to fit
No,
the Skywalker saga narrative.
no, they don't.
And I think that was one reason, and I'll admit that was one reason I was kind of hesitant because, all the stories that we've had have been told in the time frame of the Skywalker saga, and so there's a beginning and there's the ending. So we know everything has got to tie in and play in to the story we already know. So we've gotten great stories, but we know it's got to tie in somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
This is a blank check. And I mean, it's like they've added a sandbox to the side and they're the first ones in. And this is, to me, what is making this story. To me, this is what's going to make this series so successful.
Yeah, I hope so. And I was going to throw in a few little nuggets. A lot of our listeners probably know some of the High Republic things, like all the robes. The robes are very much of the High Republic era, right?
Yep.
The lightsabers, after you see Indara, after she's killed by May and her lightsaber's laying there, they're very ornate. They're very different, and that's told in some of the comics for the High Republic. You and I were talking just before we recorded, when we see Yord and his Padawan land on that ship where Osha is as a mechanic, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
That's a vector, and we see that throughout the novels and the comics. You get to see what a Jedi vector looks like, and that was pretty stinking cool as I flew in. Another one is in Charles Soul's, I see on Instagram and I think Twitter X, right? I call it Twitter. Yep. He commented on the part where May is talking to Master Torban and how he's taking the Barash vow, right?
Yeah.
And so what I have here is the Star Wars, the High Republic character encyclopedia. And I want to give credit to Megan Krause and Amy Rakow. Dan interviewed them a little while back. I think this came out in November, a few months back, but I marked it because I wanted to share this with people just to give them the background that there's a character named Barash Sylvain, and she comes up through the Jedi Order with Porter Engle. And I was going to read this to you. It says the Barash vow. Like she said, she mentions that to Master Torban that he took the Barash vow. Here it is. Barash's ability to sense the truth fails her years later on Gansevoort. Now, this is a story told in a 4-issue comic called The Blade, which really gives the backstory on Porter Engle when he's younger. It's a character that Charles Soule writes about pretty extensively, and he wrote the comic. It's pretty cool, and we're introduced to Barash Sylvain there, but most of it occurs on this planet called Gansevoort. She is betrayed by Princess Sakatra, who plays on Barash's emotions. Devastated, Barash vows to remain a Jedi, but to never again take action on behalf of the Order. Long after Barash's death, some Jedi continue to honor her act, which becomes known as the Barash vow. Did you read the Charles Soule Vader run in, I think it was 2017?
Yes.
Yeah, he has a Jedi in that who did the Barash vow. I think that's where he introduced it. Mm-hmm. And you see Vader searching for anyone who's taken the Barash vow, and tried to cut themselves off from anyone knowing. It's just their relationship with the Force and stuff like that. But so yeah, it's shown up in a few places. I wanted to read that to you, and it's a big tie to the High Republic. And then, of course, the biggest is Vernestra Rwoh, who we see as a real main character with a purple lightsaber. We see her throughout so far a lot of the High Republic, and of course now she's a Jedi Master now, and so there we go. I was trying to think if I've seen any other connections between the what they wear, the vectors they fly, the way their lightsabers look, the Barash vow. I don't know. There's probably a few other things in there I didn't pick up on, but
well,
some of the big ones.
Yeah, one of the cool things that I really liked from this is we see a glimpse of the Jedi Temple
Mm.
in this episode, in the premiere episode, the first one. And of course, the series is set 100 years before Phantom Menace. And what's unique about what we see is everything is so new on the temple. When they're doing their look of the skyline, kind of panning around the temple there for a few moments, you can tell it's a younger temple.
Yeah.
And it's really, really cool to see that going on and seeing that temple and seeing something that we're quite familiar with from the Clone Wars and from the prequels, standing there in its prime. Per se.
In the angle, right? In the angle, like you said,
yes.
Sometimes we see more of an angle down on top of it, not fully, but it was really neat that it was almost ground level, and I was trying to pick up why does it look different, and I think, like you said, not only is it a younger temple, but when we see it in, like you said, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, forgive me. Everything's built right up to it, but right now in these shots, you can see kind of around the base of the temple. Everything's not built right up to it, but I like that you said that. And everything gets built up even closer to it, right, where you don't see it that bottom like that in years to come.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's the area around the temple you can see is still well under construction compared to what we saw in the Clone Wars and in the prequels. It's definitely the skyline's a little different. You could see the base of the temple. There are differences in the temple we're seeing here compared to what we saw earlier in the movies when they came out, or in the Clone Wars too. It's definitely you could tell they did some work to make it look 100 years younger.
Yeah,
which is fantastic.
It is cool. It was pretty cool.
So that was really, really cool to see that, and of course to see not only that, but we ended up on Karlak, which, do you remember the last time we went to Karlak?
Is that, did Ahsoka go there with the boy that she liked and his mother, Lux Monteri?
She did. That's from season 4 of the Clone Wars. That's the planet where Death Watch was camped.
Okay, I didn't know that, but as soon as you asked me that, I'm like, wait, it came to me. That is pulling it out of the memory banks, Aaron, right there.
That is where that is from season 4. I can't remember the name of the episode, but I know it's from season 4, where she's with Lux Monteri and they end up on Karlak, where he is meeting with Pre Vizsla.
Yes. As soon as you gave that hint, I'm like, it all came back to me. Oh, that was pretty cool. Cool, man. Yeah,
it's quite cool. And I thought it was a nice throwback. It was a nice nod, if I don't say so myself. And it's little things like that are injected throughout this whole series, these 2 episodes, which make it so much fun. Or when we see Yord's Padawan.
Yes.
Tassi Loa. She's a Zygerian.
Oh my gosh. I looked at her and I'm like, wait, what is she? I kept looking at her. Yes, she is.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, she's a Zygerian. And we saw them again, Clone Wars. They're the slave traders.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are so many deep dives in this that I mean, if you've never watched Star Wars before or Clone Wars or any of that, you are going to enjoy this show just because it is a fantastic show. And I apologize, y'all, if y'all can hear Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano barking in the background. They are ticked off about something and they are going ballistic. And apparently my wife isn't trying to stop them. But anyhow,
I'm hoping my two dogs don't bark here.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm in a closed room with the door closed. They're 2 rooms away and I hear them like they're in here. Anywho, but the connections they're making. If you've never seen Clone Wars, and I know there's a lot of people that haven't watched the animated series or anything like that because they feel it's for kids. First, I respect your opinion. More power to you. But if you should give it a chance. Especially when you get in the later seasons of the Clone Wars and watch Rebels, you will change that opinion drastically. But there's a lot in there. But even if you haven't watched those, you're going to enjoy these series. But if you have watched those, man, the payoff is so rewarding. Because you are going to catch stuff that you just never thought about.
Oh, agreed. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things that just keeps coming and coming, and no thing whatsoever. I mean, even something as simple as, I don't remember if you remember in the second episode when they're watching, they got the little shop under surveillance waiting for May to show up. And they're watching through the micro binoculars, the macro binoculars, and finally they see May, and Yord sees May, and radios it in. But that shot of May in through the micro binoculars, it's the same. It's a modernized graphic, but it's the same graphic that we saw when Luke was looking through them at the Sand People.
Right.
And just little things like that, just connect it to other parts of the saga and make this just so much more fun. It just makes it fun when you catch little Easter eggs like that.
Yeah, and like I told you, as a fan, you can dive in as deep as you want, or you don't have to. And that's the beauty of this one. This is, like I said, it's not constrained. You can pick up on a lot of stuff, but you don't have to know all this to enjoy the mystery. And maybe should we look at that next? Should we
Yeah, let's do it.
To that? Yeah. Like what I did was, and I was telling Aaron this, is like, what is an acolyte? I was thinking back to the Chuck Wendig series, the Aftermath series that he had published back, I think 2015 or so. And in that, he talks about acolytes. And in The Rise of Skywalker, they talk about acolytes. Of course, in the movie, we see all these acolytes, right? I don't know how many there are, right? It looks almost limitless, but we don't learn a lot about them. In fact, when I opened up my Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary here this evening before we recorded, there's nothing on them, on those acolytes who are chanting in the stands, when Palpatine is battling Rey and Kylo and stuff like that. But I looked up acolyte. What does acolyte mean? Here's 3 definitions. One who assists a member of the clergy in a liturgical service by performing minor duties. Number 2, one who attends or assists a leader or a follower. Right? And so, I just wanted to look that up, what is an acolyte? Then it brings about, something that you and I were talking about, which is May the acolyte? Is it Kimry? He's the Manny Jacinto plays the character. He makes the potion up that, she gives to Master Torben and stuff like that. Or is the Acolyte, the person, whoever it is, at the end of episode 1, who ignites their red lightsaber, along the shoreline there, or is it all 3 of them? I think there's a lot of layers here, because the thing I was mentioning to you is when we look at that initial crawl, I like how they did that. It was kind of a crawl, but it wasn't crawling.
Yeah.
But it says 1 risks being discovered by seeking revenge, and you might initially read that and say, well, oh, that's May, because she's out for revenge on for the Jedi that we know of, and that's laid out in the 2 episodes. But then I said to you, I'm like, well, is it really May? Because again, murder mystery wise, we know she commits the first 2 murders in essence. But it's more than that, right? Is it this person, this individual? When we saw the clip of Master Sol, what are you? Not who are you? What are you?
Yeah.
Is it this individual, this person, this not Sith? I don't think Sith. Maybe it's a Sith that ends up coming all the way down and eventuates in Darth Plagueis and then Palpatine. But those are kind of the layers here that I'm wondering about. Is, again, in the crawl, does that refer to May? I think it really refers to whoever this individual is with the red lightsaber. This person, individual, whoever, is risking being discovered by using May, Kimry, and them to get revenge. Right? I mean, isn't that the person risking being discovered? Because the Jedi know May. They know Osha. Kimry's might be a local thug who's fallen in with, trying to be an acolyte or a follower or whatever. But that's kind of what I took from the crawl and from kind of these layers. I mean, what is your take? Is that how you're reading this?
It's that there's a lot to unpack when it comes to the Acolyte. And I definitely understand where you're reading that. And honestly, the simple answer is, okay, yeah, it's whoever's training May. But my gut is telling me it's going to be more complex than that. It's going to be more complex, because, I would not be surprised if somebody is pulling whoever trained May, if somebody is puppeting that person.
Oh, so you're talking like a big bad beyond this one with the red lightsaber who throws it around. We've seen this and all that. Oh, I like this.
Yeah, because ultimately, this has to end up. Ultimately, we end up with the Phantom Menace, and like I said, what's great about this is they have a brand new sandbox they don't have to play with. Ultimately, they do have an endpoint with the Phantom Menace. So, ultimately, any long-term storytelling has to tie up into there, but it doesn't have to now. But if they wanted, I can, and like I said, as I've said many hundreds of times before, we have no inside information. We have no glimpse, but I would not be surprised if the Acolyte that the series is talking about ends up being Palpatine.
Interesting.
Puppeting the strings behind the scenes. And we could even still have Plagueis, his master.
Right.
Plagueis was Palpatine's master.
Right.
So we could have, because Acolytes aren't Sith. They're Sith worshipers.
Right.
So we're not dealing with Sith, but the Sith are still out there.
Right.
So this could be the beginning of the plan. And the plan, and for all we can find out, it may all come out that the plan that Palpatine executed wasn't his own. It was, Plagueis's.
Yeah.
And this was the Plagueis getting the ball rolling. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. But it would be really cool.
Oh. And do they? I've got to read. It's one of my, just like the Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. Plagueis is another one that was kind of moved into Legends, but a lot of people consider them to be still just super solid. And in Plagueis, do they talk about? Did you read Plagueis? I have not. I
have not,
because I thought they might mention his master, Darth Plagueis's master. So that's what I was wondering if that's what we're looking at, kind of that, like you said, just kind of adding one more in there, to the mix as it moves towards Palpatine and eventually what he ends up doing, and really, Asajj Ventress is an acolyte, right? To Dooku. He's the apprentice. Then there's the master. I've heard other people talk about these Inquisitors as acolytes. They're not, when we.
Well, they're not Sith.
Right, because you think about it, like when we just covered Tales of the Empire, you've got Palpatine, you've got Vader, and then you have these Inquisitors. Again, dark side followers, but not Sith. So the story group's bringing some stuff together here, aren't they?
They definitely are. And like I said, we try to avoid speculating on the show, and I just speculated the crap out of the episode. And so forgive me for that, but this is how excited I am for the show. My ambitions are gone. I'm speculating in all kinds of. That's how hooked I am into this show right now, and I'm hoping that doesn't come back and bite me, because we still got 6 episodes left. But I'm sold on this series.
Oh, that's good.
100%. I am sold on this series. So
it's nice to have some fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's, we're I know there's, and I'm going to go ahead and address that. I was going to take a break, and then I figured, no, I need to go ahead and say this now. That way we can then break and come back and go. But you mentioned it earlier. There's mixed reviews about the series. There are those that love it. There are those that think it okay. Then there's those that just don't like anything don't like the show, and those that just don't like anything that Disney does. Fine. So be it. But here's what's great. We're Star Wars fans, and there's so much Star Wars coming out right now. And there's so much Star Wars that's come up over the last several years. You're not going to like everything. I haven't liked everything that came out. David hasn't liked everything that's come out. There's going to be stuff that come out that you just don't enjoy. There's nothing wrong with that. But guess what? There's going to be something else coming up down the road that it may blow your mind and be your new Star Wars. Or maybe not. It don't matter. But there's no reason to keep the peace. Be a Jedi. Keep the peace.
Yeah.
Get along. I close every show. This is a year of kindness. Be kind to somebody. Do something right. You can't go out and do something kind if you're fighting with somebody online about whether or not the show is good or not. Who cares?
Right.
You love it? Great. You don't love it? Great. I don't care. What matters is I enjoy it. And what matters is you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, what matters is you have something you do enjoy. But we're all Star Wars fans, and we can all get along with the fact that we love Star Wars. So I've said that. I've said my piece. Letting it go. Do you want to add anything before we take a break, David?
No, I'm with you, man. Every time you've said it, I agree. People can like what they like. You and I have not liked everything, and we've liked, stuff, and that's okay. And people can do the same. I think you and I are going to enjoy the heck out of this show, though.
Oh, you better believe it. You better believe it. All right. Well, hang with us. We are going to take another break. Hold on. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are back talking the series premiere of The Acolyte. And man, it was fantastic. I just don't even know what else to say. This show is just so incredible. I've loved every minute of it. I'm going to level with you, David. I've watched the 2-episode premiere of this more times than I watched the series premiere of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I've watched this more times than I have that. And I loved Ahsoka. But there's just something about this that just got its hooks into me. All right, well, let's keep rolling here. One thing I do want to talk about, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how this relationship plays out as we go, is the relationship between Jecki, who is Sol's new Padawan, and Osha, who is the old Padawan, who Jecki calls out at one point, why do you carry around a hologram of your old Padawan? And there, it's going to be interesting dynamic, because now that Osha is following them around on this mission to find May, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes and where this plays out. And it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be interesting for me to see again, because, Saul's going to be very conflicted, I think, through this, because he's going to be wrestling trying to keep himself centered as a Jedi Master, but he's also going to be wrestling with the fact that there's Osha. He's got to take care of Osha. He's also has to take care of, train Jecki, but then he's got May, who he doesn't want. May is, of course, Oshi's twin sister. He doesn't want, he feels responsible for her as well.
Yeah.
So the dynamic between Jecki and Osha is going to be the interesting relationship to watch. Because if there's going to be any jealousy or any conflict between two characters, that's where I think that's where it's going to develop. Because you have the current Padawan, and I got a feeling, and you could see how Sol did it once they got to Oleg, and how he kind of stuck with Osha at that point, almost like they went back to Master Padawan again. And so I can see I can almost see almost like a sibling rivalry developing there between the two. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I'll say this: if people are wondering, Osha, that's what you hear May call Osha at the end of the second episode. Calls her Osha as a more of a term of endearment. Right. So now I'm glad you brought that up as Osha, because that was interesting too, and I want to talk about that part as well. But when you bring this up, Jecki and Osha, I do think about. I see Jecki kind of like Yord, and maybe Osha's a little bit more like Sol. We learn quite a bit about Osha, in terms of she left after several years. Yord, when he first sees her, he's got his hand on his lightsaber. He thinks it might be May, doesn't know who it is. Well, actually, no, he doesn't know that Osha has a twin sister. So
Mhm.
he thinks that she's perhaps committed this crime. And he said, you started your training, you were older, like Anakin, and it didn't say Anakin, and also a lot of pain, a lot of suffering had occurred for her. And then that's where my question, like, as you bring this up, you've got, I wonder if Osha really struggled and left the order because of all of that, where she just couldn't connect as well to the Force because of all the pain she was going through from what happened in that fire, and thought she lost May, lost her mother, and whoever else. And I don't know what she knows in terms of what did the four Jedi do that was right or wrong. Even Master Torben said, "What we thought we were doing the right thing, right?" And then he drank the potion there, the poison.
Well, I
So
got speculation on that too, but I ain't going there in this
sure,
episode.
sure, exactly. But like you said, it's trying, learning more about Osha, learning more about Jecki, and and you wonder too, Aaron, kind of maybe some sibling rivalry, but ultimately maybe an appreciation of kind of two different views and how they came up. Maybe Jecki came up and didn't have all the trauma that Osha did. So yeah, that could be a real interesting dynamic, and I feel like Yord could be part of that too, because like you said, when Sol, when they get to Olega and they're at the Jedi Temple there, the local Jedi Temple, he kind of really feel like just kind of bossing Yord and Jecki around, and really, kind of going back to, oh, there goes my dog, or back to Osha. So yeah, I think there's a lot to look for there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's going to be a lot to look for and a lot to look at as the series goes forward. And I just got to say, I can't wait. So, well, we are like way past time, but there's a lot we still need to get through. But was there anything else you want to talk about the premiere that before we move on into the show?
Oh, you mean final reactions and stuff like that?
Final reactions and stuff like that.
Some of those. The only other thing I would say is I am curious again in terms of layers and storytelling. I put this in our show notes, how they'll handle the issue of the Sith not being seen for over 1,000 years. Ki-Adi-Mundi says that. We all have heard Ki-Adi-Mundi say that. And in my head, again, will Master Sol, Vernestra, Rwoh, Jecki, these other, Yord, ultimately say, now we don't think it wasn't an actress. It was an acolyte. It really was an acolyte. It was a follower. Someone wanted to learn about the dark side. There still are no Sith out there. Or do they believe it was a Sith, but they cover up that information? Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And that's like what you said a few minutes ago. That's the one endpoint that, again, Leslie Headland doesn't have to answer that per se, but it would be interesting to see, because we do see a conversation earlier between Sol and Vernestra Rwoh about wanting to really not let this information get out about a former Jedi Padawan killing a Jedi Master. And so there's a lot there as well that is interesting. So yeah, so curious to see how she handles all that, but I think it'll be good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, all right. Well, with that, we will, like I said, there's 1,000 other things we could talk about, but we're just going to go ahead and start wrapping things up because we don't want to keep y'all here forever. But let's go into final reactions. David, I'll let you take the floor for final reactions first, since I stole initial from you.
No, I'm glad you went first there and really set the stage. I've said this before when you and I have covered various series, animated or live action, that I don't know what it is, but I don't know if I'm just trying to, I don't know, I'm too geeked up or I'm comparing it to other Star Wars, and just the second viewing always helps me. And I mentioned this to Aaron again before we hit the record button, that the first time he did it a little bit different than me. The first one I watched it with the closed caption, so I can see all the names, I can hear little subtleties, et cetera, et cetera. But the second time I watched it, turn those off. I could just look at the characters, look at Master Sol, look at all the different aliens, look at every different corner of the screen, and just really take it in and just really enjoy it. And so again, I always tell myself, just watch it twice before I make any decisions. And so I think you could hear it in Aaron and I throughout this, that I love that there's not the constraints of the Skywalker saga. I love the layers here. This is way deeper of a murder mystery beyond May killing Master Indara and then contributing to Master Torben's death. There's a lot of layers here, and Leslie Headland really laid it out and has us asking lots of questions, and that's fun. And so Aaron mentioned his, I'll steal it, the action, the lightsabers. I love seeing the lightsabers, the different colors. And for me, being a reader of the High Republic, it was really cool to see them and their robes and lightsabers and the Jedi Vector, all of that in live action, to see Vernestra Rwoh in live action. So that was a pretty special treat for me after what I invested and have invested in the High Republic over the last 3 years, since I think January 2021. So just off to a great start. Looking forward to 6 more episodes. Like Aaron says, I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. Curious to see what episode 3 brings. And I like these kind of the titles, Aaron, the kind of the 2 words, lost, found, justice, revenge. I like that. I'm curious to see what the rest of those are too, and how Leslie Headland names them. So yeah, this is just a few of my final reactions. There's so much more we could talk about tonight, so much, but like Aaron says, we want to respect people's time as well. So, but yeah, off to a great start. What are your final thoughts?
Well, first off, thank you for bringing up the titles, because that was something that I enjoyed too, and I'm excited to see how they played out, because the titles are playing into each episode. So it's fun. Final reactions for me. I mean, this whole episode has been my final reaction, honestly. I love what I'm seeing. I mean, this is incredible storytelling. This is incredible cinematography. The acting was great. I mean, everything was good in this episode. Everything was great. I dare say, if they continue with this high level of storytelling and episodes through the next 6 episodes through the rest of the series, this could take my top spot for best live action series, and dethrone Ahsoka. So I'm interested to see where this goes. Actually, it would dethrone season 1 of Mando. It's honestly what it would dethrone. But season 1 of Mando, Ahsoka, then season 2 and 3, then actually Andor, and anyway, I'll make you a list later. But this, if the next 6 are as good or better than this episode, these 2, we're going to have a huge hit on our hands. I can definitely say this will take the crown of my favorite live action if it does. And I've got a feeling, it's going to be a good one. So that, plus the fact that in the first 2 episodes, you have Yord saying, I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yes. Yep.
You can't beat it. This is classic Star Wars. So, c'est la vie. So, well, that wraps up our final reactions. But guess what? You, our listeners, have told us what you thought.
The name's Rex. Now let's check some emails.
So let's jump into some of the messages we have received. You ready, David?
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah. So we did get some comments and stuff on our social media to our post asking for comments. So I want to jump on it and got some great comments from one great Jedi on TikTok. They said that I thought it was good so far. Looking forward to the characters developing, and so far I am sucked in. At Yoda_815 on TikTok said I did. They're replying to my post about how much I enjoyed it. They're like, I did too. I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes. Looking forward to the whole season. Then, of course, we jump over to Facebook, and we get messages from, of course, you know him, David, my pal Robbie. He goes, I think because I went into this with very low expectations, I really enjoyed it. Not boring. Storyline is easy to understand. Not sure if I like the Kung Fu style, but interesting. And of course, that's my best friend, Robbie there. My other friend, Tyler, said that the first episode to me was meh. The second episode was so better. The storyline is interesting, and I am interested to see where it is going.
Nice.
Of course, our good pal, Adam Young, who likes sending me some dad jokes every once in a while. Yeah. He commented saying that I'd give the first 2 episodes a B- or C+. They were good, not great. Hope the rest of the season blows me away. Then, of course, we got a voicemail from our pal Greg. So let's listen to that.
Hey there, David and Aaron. This is Greg from the Rebel Base Card. Just a couple of quick notes on last night's premiere at the AMC River East here in Chicago. I was surprised that, when I clicked the link to see if I could get in, that I got a confirmation right away. But of course, that was just a kind of a ticket for a ticket, as it were. So you had to get down early, and I got down there early, kind of like your dad gets to the airport early, that kind of early. And so, I kind of waited around and actually got to meet some other folks, some really nice folks, Arturo and Bruce and, Sam and Sean, shout out to them. So we kind of hung around until the representative came over, from Fandango, and she kind of just laid out how it was going to go. We're going to kind of get in line. We're going to get these wristbands, like I still have mine on. And then we basically, once they started forming people in about an hour before the premiere, we picked up a poster, got upstairs, and then that wristband also got us a free popcorn and drink, which was really kind of cool. A lot of the seats were reserved for the 501st. And then they said, no mas with the phone, put the phone away. And so we basically just, once the lights went down, we got a couple of previews, and there it was. What a great event. Everybody kind of had a really nice time, I was going to say. And I think what I saw was pretty positive, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. Can't wait to listen to you. All right. Ciao.
Thanks, Greg, for that voicemail. Of course, you can make sure you check out Greg over on Rebel Base Card Podcast. If you like trading cards and Star Wars, great show. So it's actually on David and I's listen list, actually.
Absolutely.
So we if we tell you to listen to it, it's because we're listening to it. So, so yeah, check it out. But yeah, so if you want to be involved in the future of our Acolyte reactions, join the conversation. Feel free to, you can either comment on our post or, of course, email or direct message us, DM us on any of our social media. We have Facebook and X at SW Reactions Pod. And of course, you have Instagram, Threads. We have YouTube and TikTok and Pinterest and Tumblr, all at SW Reactions. Of course, you can email us anytime, anywhere, swreactions@gmail.com. Or if you want to do what Greg did, leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Star Wars reactions. David, I'm going to turn the floor to you for your factoid, your psychology factoid.
Well, thank you, brother. Yeah, with this, I don't always match these up, but this one worked out pretty well. And, with the start of the Acolyte, I thought this factoid would be quite appropriate. So, again, I get a lot of these factoids. This one comes from the June edition of the Monitor on Psychology, a really good journal. I think you can jump online, apa.org, and access many of the articles for free, just so you know, just so our listeners know. But there's research in the journal Behavioral Sciences and the Law, and it revealed how quickly misinformation can spread through academic publications. Okay, and when I was reading this, I was thinking about, again, Master Sol and Vernestra Rwoh talking, and some of the issues that can come, and is the information correct? Even Osha says, I didn't do it. You got to believe me, right? What information's correct? There's twins. Oh, no. But the researchers identified approximately 409 articles, presentations, and other scholarly documents related to parental alienation theory that were published between 1994 and 2022. And by the way, I've worked with parents who have dealt with parental alienation. It's miserable stuff. So they found 94 examples of significant misinformation stemming from a single source that was published in 1994. The researchers gave a couple of possible explanations for the misinformation, including the mindset of the authors. For example, confirmation bias. You have to battle that when you're doing research. Like, you think that this is how it's going to turn out, and you fudge data and have a bias towards it, so you confirm your bias. And the other is that the authors could have just sloppy writing skills. That is, sloppy research practices. And, a big one is using secondary sources versus primary sources. So, I try to tell people to have good critical thinking skills. And I don't know, I just thought that this fit really well with the Acolyte, with all of the information. And of course, we know what the Sith try to do. Stay in the shadows, Palpatine, oh, look at this. We need to have we need this clone army to deal with these battle droids, so all kinds of misinformation from him and Dooku, excuse me, and all the baddies there in the prequels and stuff like that. So I don't know, just thought it fit really well. I do want to give a quick preview for people. I actually probably should call them psychology corners, but I'm going to try to do this for the last 4. We'll see how this works out. The last 4 episodes, I really wanted to share some stuff on some of the latest information on treatments for treatment-resistant depression and anxiety. Pretty fascinating stuff with psychedelics. And so, I don't know, Aaron has access to all the notes and he can see all that. But I put a lot of effort into it and want to share that with people. But just know that these first couple ones will be random factoids, but then I'll have a kind of a 4-part psychology corner, psychology factoid as we wrap up our coverage of the Acolyte. So that's just a little hint.
Very good. Very good. That works out wonderful. And if somebody has any questions about your factoid or want to talk to you about Star Wars, how would you go about doing that?
Absolutely, my friend. We've always said, Twitter X has been a stalwart. I don't know. I think people are jumping off. We've stayed on it. It's simply at David_Modders, MODDERS. Let's see. Instagram is just my name. Obviously, I've said people can, email the show or any of our socials. Aaron's all over that, like white on rice, and he'd send that over to me. And also, Blue Sky, all that kind of stuff. So a whole bunch of different spots. But just send a message or comment or whatever. And I just appreciate everyone who wrote in, and for Greg's speak pipe message.
Very good. Very good. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot to mention we're on Blue Sky too. So you can hit us up and I'll hit the show notes. You'll find all of our links. So if you want to talk Star Wars with me, the best place to do that is on X at TA Harris 121079, or of course, just hit up any of the show socials and you will get me because I am primary on those, but you will definitely get a response. So yeah, there it is, y'all. Well, David, it's that time, my friend.
Uh-oh.
Are you ready?
You love this.
Oh, you know.
I am ready. I've had a little bit of a break. I think, well, who am I kidding? I say I'm ready, but I'm never really ready.
Well, it is a good one this week. That's right. It is time for our Star Wars dad joke of the week. So here it is, folks. What do you call an Ewok sneak attack?
Ooh, no, this one I don't know. What do you call an Ewok sneak attack?
An indoor round.
Oh my God. That's like an end around. That's kind of like a
end around.
That's pretty good. That's actually semi kind of good. Yeah.
There we go. End around. Nice. My word. Well, David, man, this has been a blast, my friend.
Yeah, this has been a great start here to hopefully what'll end up being after 8 episodes a really, really enjoyable series for hopefully most Star Wars fans, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it is too, and hope y'all enjoyed it. Thank y'all so much for listening in and for joining us week after week. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're praying for y'all, wishing y'all the best at everything. Like I said earlier, remember, this is your week, your year of kindness. This is your reminder to go out, do something kind for somebody. Buy them a coffee, give them a lending hand, give somebody a ride, anything. Just do something kind, even if it's just being an ear for somebody to listen, to vent to. You'll never know how just being there for somebody and being kind to somebody will impact their life as much as it impacts yours. So remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions, unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.